Good morning. Well, it's not quite the weekend, at least not for the flea market. Uh, 8:30 on a Friday morning, and I just had my stomach upset by watching Governor Senator McCain from Arizona. He's all over the place. He never saw a country he didn't want to invade. Never saw an invasion that he thought should ever end, and never saw an occupation that he didn't think we should be in. I guess he thinks everybody from 18 to 30 ought to be in the armed services and scattered all around the fucking world trying to rule the world. But the point he made was, let's not repeat history, as old George Santayana told us. Those are that don't remember history are condemned to repeat it. And what he was talking about is Iraq. What he failed to mention is the fact that he supported the war effort in Iraq, with the only exception that he wanted Rumsfeld fired because he didn't think they were putting enough boots on the ground in the first place. So let's look at this problem in Iraq, and this is what's causing the spike in oil, and it's going to cost you more for gas because of it. Let's do just a little quick background. Uh, Saddam, uh, during his 10-year war with, and Saddam's a Sunni, but not more of a secular government than anything he ran. And when he was in power, the women of Iraq had more freedom than any other Muslim country in the world. Uh, that people, of course, you didn't want to run into opposition with them, but 95% of the people in the country were living prosperously, and were going along fine. Now, we supplied him with all kinds of intelligence information when they were fighting with Iran, because of course, we'll go into Iran on another day, but we supplied them with the information of where intelligence of where they were arming, and where their people were, and everything else, and we allowed him to use some weapons that normally wouldn't under international law wouldn't be allowed to be used against the Iranians, because we were happy to see them beat the shit out of each other, just as we were happy to watch the Russians and the Afghans go at it for all those years. But the first war with Iraq under 41, under Bush 41, was that our our ambassador to Iraq sort of give him the nod or give him the impression that it would be okay to go into Kuwait, and we saw that the rest of the government didn't feel that way. But aside from that, the terrible sin he did against humanity was when he tried to burn those oil fields when his troops were leaving Iraq, and that could have been a real catastrophe for a great many people, particularly those in India, because that cloud of smoke, had those fires not been extinguished, and luckily we had the technology to extinguish them, that they would have caused a great deal of chaos in the growing season for those that are downwind of that. But then he had a period of peace, and of course Bush too, because Saddam was pissed at Bush one, uh, and there was this quote, uh, plot to kill Bush one, which no one has ever sufficiently established, uh, that Bush two decided to take him out, and he used 9/11 as the premise to do this. Now, there were never any weapons of mass destruction. He went by the advice of who all, Malachi and a couple other people. Now, now this was a Sunni-run dictatorship. It was a Sunni-run factory system, oil system. Anything that was run there was run by the Ba'ath Party, and by the who were mainly Sunnis, and the Shiites were the working class. Okay, now what happened? We invade, and this uh, uh, what was the term for it? I forget the name. They use this shock and awe of Bushes. Went in there, and here was a country that we were going to liberate. Well, how do you liberate a country? By absolutely destroying every bit of its infrastructure. How is that liberation? You don't take the power plant out, you take a power line out. You can rebuild a power line in months. You don't take all the bridges out. You take one bridge out, the main highway out, something that can be replaced in a short amount of time. You don't destroy everything. You destroy a few things, and you destroy the communications. But you don't. You can do that without destroying everything. We went in there and we literally leveled everything of value in that country. What a ridiculous notion! How the hell were we going to go in and rule a country that had a decent infrastructure by destroying the infrastructure? As I said, rather than destroy the power company, you knock out the power lines. That's all. But no, we weren't happy till we leveled the shock and awe. How great that made us look. How ridiculous it made us look. Now, you've heard me speak so many times about the House of Krupp and how Germany couldn't be rebuilt without it. Well, apparently no one in the Bush administration had ever heard of the House of Krupp. Now, what you do, you go into the country. The first thing you did was you outlawed any Bath from holding any political office or holding any high official position. Okay, so you cut the head of everything off. So there were no Shia that knew how to run a goddamn thing. So how do you rebuild an infrastructure? How do you get the industry back up? Even the oil industry. How do you get that back up and running by eliminating all the people that know how to run it? You try to put a guy that's been in there with a broom cleaning the floor, and you try to make him a CEO. It doesn't work. It's never worked. It's never going to work. But yet that's what happened. So then they said, well, we brought peace to Iraq. You didn't bring anything to Iraq. All you did was bring a separatism. You built a wall that everybody that was in a Sunni majority neighborhood forced the Shias out, and every Shia that was in a majority in their neighborhood forced the Sunnis out. So we had little enclaves and built giant walls to keep them from getting at each other. And that's what's happening today. That we are in the position we're in, and Iraq's in the position they're in because they never allowed any of the Sunni back into the government. They never allowed them back into industry or anything else. And there, by cutting the brain off of Iraq, it was never going to be right. The Shia just had never developed the interest, or even if they weren't allowed to develop it, they never held the interest and the knowledge on how to run a government and how to run an industry, especially the oil industry. So then Bush goes on to say, well, now we're going to be a part of OPEC, and the oil's going to pay for this. We spent $1 trillion in that fucking country. We never made a nickel off of oil. And you know where all the major contracts are going? They're going to British Petroleum, they're going to Shell, they're going to everybody, but they're not going to us. No major U.S. oil company has signed a contract in Iraq. All these other foreign firms are the ones that are making the money out of Iraqi oil. So let's mention this thing you say, yeah, but what a bastard Saddam was. Look at he used gas on his own people. Well, I'll tell you why he used gas, and I'll tell you where he got the gas. We gave him the gas, and we give him the nod ahead to go ahead and use it. Why? Because the good part of the oil in Iraq was in Kurdish territories in the northern part of Iraq, and the Kurds were going to use this war, our takeover of Iraq, for a separatist movement so that they could have a Kurdish uh, uh, country of their own in the northern part of Iraq. Now, why should we care about this? Well, because They also want to take a little chunk of Turkey, and Turkey's a member of NATO. And if they tried to take a chunk of Turkey, we would have to have our obligation to NATO would put more boots on the ground, and this time coming in from Turkey to northern Iraq. Now the Kurds uh, uh, in northern Iraq have had their separate little, almost separate little country going anyway. They had a very booming economy and all. Well, this is where the trouble is today. That they still want to be separatist. There's still a lot of those that are are Sunni, and they want what they think they have a legitimate right to. So now we got big problems. So McCain's idea is get back in there, kick ass again, and then kick ass again and kick ass again. Instead of us requiring that so many of the people in the legislature there and so many in the government be Sunni, that so many people in industry and all be Sunni. Instead, this was a chance for the Shia to get their foot on the throat of the Sunni. For all the years the Sunni held them down, and we're back to this tribal tribalism more than anything. So we have to stay the hell out of this conflict. Now, because they were never given an equal chance, the Sunni and the Shia, to participate in the government and the army and everything else. We have you see this masterful plan that the army instituted in training their troops. What was the first thing their troops did? Is take their clothes off and run away so that they couldn't be established that they were government troops. And they captured thousands of these troops up in the north with very few people, so that even the troops aren't so secure in their feeling that this government, led by Malachi, can help them out. But we have no right. We agreed to allow the Malachi in there, and we oversaw their constitution, so we have no right to go in and overthrow that. We have done that many times. I agree. The CIA has, and other forces of America have done that time after time. But it would be just a little too obvious if we did it. If we did it this time after we supported the Malachi government all these years. So my advice is stay the hell out of there. Uh, I mean, we've got big problems in Syria, and caused by the same people, but those problems are of our own making. And if we keep insisting on sticking our nose, we're going to have more and more of them, and you're going to get to pay higher and higher gas bills.